Heard their point? Now, hear the counterpoint on Libertarian Counterpoint podcasts.
And thank you for joining us today. With me is Richard Fields on the bottom today, and we've got John Cameron on the other side. Gentlemen, Gunrock, the Aggies, for those who aren't initiated, around here in Sacramento, UC Davis is just down the street, and the UC Davis Aggies is their mascot. Is the team name is the Aggies, and their mascot has been this thing called Gunrock, which is a Mustang. But apparently that is problematic because in lore, Gunrock's father was a thoroughbred racehorse. And that is problematic. And so now they have changed, the students have voted to change their mascot to a cow, which personally I think probably fits the modern, if you think about it, probably fits the modern university student perfectly.
Smart move.
Well, no, that would be cheap. But what interested me about the whole thing is, 2,300 students out of a student body of 50,000 was enough to make, to total votes, not the difference, total votes. That's what made the difference in this so-called election. You talk about poor election turnout. What the heck is that all about?
How many students there? Like 35, 40,000, or is it 50,000?
Pushing, something like that. I said
it's in the tens of thousands, and you get 2,500 show up. But if you think about the mascot, right, they're supposed to kind of represent the student body. And well, a Mustang, as Gunrock was a Mustang, it's a noble creature, hard to be broken, free-spirited, right? What's a cow? It's a herd animal. In nature, they're prey. In society, they're milked, slaughtered, and sold. Well, sounds like a university student to me.
But James, it's not politically correct. Cows, beef, end up being hamburger, and how's that going to go over with the vegan crowd? It's not going to work. They may be the cows for a while, but that's not going to last either.
Well, the other thing is when you think about it, they're blaming cows for an awful lot of global warming. Apparently,
cows cause global warming. What's that? Come on.
Cow flatulence. So you would think flatulence. So you would think that perhaps they need to take a page out of University of Santa Cruz. Aren't they the banana slugs? The University of Santa Cruz school mascot is the banana slug. So perhaps they could pick a nice fungus or spore or something like that.
Maybe the tomato. They're agriculture. That's what the Aggies are, right? For agriculture. So maybe just get a tomato.
Mostly animal husbandry. I think that's what they make their meat and potatoes.
No, animal husbandry. They've got a big wine school now, courtesy of a wine company out of Napa Valley. It's they cover the whole gamut. I know somebody very well personally who graduated with a graduate degree in agriculture from UC Davis, and she worked with nuts, with almonds. I said that right. Almonds.
Well, it depends on whether you're south of Stockton or north of Stockton. Whether they call it.
We're north, and north of Stockton is almonds. So don't argue with me.
Yeah. All right. No, I know this person well, and not nearly as well as you do, Richard. And no, it's a great ag school, and I think with that kind of turnout, I'm surprised that they even bothered. Really. I mean, it certainly doesn't prove that there was an overwhelming desire for sea change in the organization.
Well, no, and you have to go to the alums, and I know some alums are not happy about the change because they like Gunrock because it was part of their youth, and so now they're changing to a cow. Everybody's all upset. Betsy the cow or something. I don't know.
I've lived down the road from UCD for years, and I don't think I was ever aware that Gunrock was their mascot.
You knew it was the Mustangs, right?
What?
You knew they were Mustangs. Of course, with UC Davis, less than stellar record in intercollegiate sports, not too many people pay attention anyway.
They used to do pretty well in football. But I think, mostly it's a brain power school, as it's very highly rated, and lots of rich foreign folks send their kids there and pay the full ride. So, I mean, that's one of the things that makes, Davis when they're in classes, so delightfully cosmopolitan is the huge number of foreign students that
Yeah, a lot, mostly Asian. I mean, lived in Davis for many years, 20 some years, and it's due to the student body, it's a very heavily Asian population, which makes the town a better place. It's got a lot of good Asian restaurants. It's got where else can you find a Nepalese store? You can't.
No. Nepal, maybe. Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think we could beat this one to death, bro.
Yeah, no, we're talking about restaurants in Davis. I think we've kind of gone way over on this one. But Democrats don't seem to understand the economy, or do they? And they just can't say it because they're kind of avoiding inflation, right? Everybody but Democrats kind of sees the inflation, and Democrats kind of still continuing to downplay it. But also the risk of recession. We're already living in a recession. So anybody who doesn't understand that we're in a recession, is blind, I guess. It's just the best way to say it. Blind.
Well, officially a recession is called by whoever makes the call after 2 quarters of economic slowdown. We've had 1 quarter of economic slowdown so far that's in the record books. I'm sure that the second quarter will be forthcoming, but we're not officially in a recession yet. But as you say, everybody pretty well knows, because wages are going up, but they're not going up nearly as fast as the price of consumer goods. Look at gas, look at milk, look at baby formula. So yeah, we're in a recession. The problem for the Democrats is, the problem for the Republicans is they don't have an answer, because the inflation started. It's bipartisan. It's been going on ever since Greenspan was appointed back in the 90s, and they've been pumping up the money supply, which you can't have inflation without an increased money supply. Now, I know that other factors contribute to inflation, but without increased money supply, inflation doesn't happen. And the Greenspan, who was a Republican appointee, Bernanke, I think, was also a Republican appointee originally, Yellen, a Democratic appointee, and now Jerome Powell, who was a Trump appointee. All of them have been pumping up the money supply like nobody's business. And with that, eventually you get inflation, particularly since under Trump, not Biden, Trump originally, he started shoveling money into the hands of consumers with stimmy payments and unemployment bump ups during the COVID thing. That's what got the money going away from financial assets, i.e. the stock market or the bond market, and going directly into the price of gas, the price of consumer goods. And Biden has done nothing to change that. But this is not a partisan issue. This is bipartisan. Both partisans, Republicans and Democrats, are squarely on the wrong side of the issue. So, yeah, you might say it's a winning issue for Republicans, but not really, because if voters have any memory at all, they'll realize it's been going on at least since Trump, and certainly, arguably, since Bush the younger.
Well, I think they don't have memories, but I'm not disagreeing with you, Richard, that it's a duopoly problem. I mean, libertarians wouldn't put up with this nonsense. First of all, they wouldn't have a Fed. I think the only thing that libertarians and John Birchers agree on, there's a couple of things, but when you got the banksters running the regulatory agencies that regulate the banks and giving themselves permission to print money to make, basically ghost loans and live off the fees, I mean, you're going to have problems. And it doesn't matter who's in charge of it. As the Fed is an independent regulatory agency in many respects, and it's not independent at all because it favors the powers that we let be. So, but I do think that the Dems are either blind to what's of most concern to most Americans, which is inflation, and then inflation, crime, all sorts of other stuff. And they're pitching the abortion issue as a big thing. They're just completely ignoring what most people are concerned about.
Well, libertarians are divided on abortion. Some are pro-choice, some are pro-life, but libertarians come to it from a standpoint of being honest, which is, when does life begin? And that's arguable. And I think Roe v. Wade got it right. Life begins when it can't support itself, inside the womb or outside, and that's for second trimester. So I agree with Roe v. Wade. I don't know about the legal reasoning, whether it's all that sound, but the result, I think, was a just and fair result. The Republicans are clearly shooting themselves in the foot because the majority of Americans, a very large majority of Americans, favor some form of abortion rights. Nobody supports, well, very few people support abortion rights right up until the day of delivery, but most people support some sort of choice for the benefit of women, as do I, and do probably a majority of libertarians. And the Republicans going Texas and now Oklahoma, which is
we lost Richard. Well, actually, it's going to help on up. We're talking about abortion. We'll kind of move down to the bottom of the list, but that's actually a good point, because the abortion issue it doesn't actually divide as easily as we like to think it does. Whether it's Republicans or Democrats, the abortion issue is actually highly complicated. Women actually aren't in this universal agreement for abortion rights. They don't. I was reading an article on 538 the other day. It's quite complicated. But when it comes out in the importance of issues, for most people, abortion is down on the bottom of the list. It's not something that most people have as a driving issue. Again, like John said, it's the economy, it's crime, it's education, it's all these other things that abortion is going to be 5, 6, 10th down on the list. And does the left, as John said, they're kind of going all for abortion, but I haven't heard much talk about Roe v. Wade, despite the fact that on the streets, there's no real talk about it. There's talk about it in the media, and there's talk about it in Democrat circles, but the rest of everybody's like, eh. So is it going to be the issue that they think it is? It's just.
Well, I think it might get, it either shows that the Democrats are completely out of touch with their own polling, don't want to look at it, or they don't want to talk about inflation and crime and all the other things that's important. The border issue is important to a whole lot of people. Not to me as a libertarian, I don't care. Let the best and brightest come here and work hard, and and let those folks who don't like it here leave. I mean, it's pretty simple to me. Of course, if you leave and leave your citizenship behind in the United States, you basically have to pay a state tax on the way out, which is kind of cool. But I think it's a refusal to face reality. I understand the political bent to it, which means if they face it, they have to take some responsibility for it because they are the party in power. But they're not going to do that. So, not going to take responsibility for the inflation, for the crime, for the porous borders, that all these things that really bother folks. So, we'll see. It's I'm not. I'm not a big Trump fan. I'm not. The only thing he did right was some deregulation, as far as I'm concerned, because tariffs are a joke. They just hurt consumers. They don't help anybody. The border stuff, basically that's just rabble rousing. I still, and this sounds politically cynical, I don't think Putin would have invaded the Ukraine if Trump was president. I don't think he'd have done it. But then again, apparently, Biden forgot again that we're not allies with Taiwan. So, anyway.
Yeah, well, it's being unpredictable has its advantages, right? Trump was unpredictable, and if you're unpredictable, people are going to be less likely to kind of cause problems because they don't know how you're going to respond. Oh, Biden, Biden administration knew exactly how they were going to respond. There was no secret there, and so that was part of that problem.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So, but speaking of kind of power, has wokism, the special privilege, Disney, and has lost their special privileges in Florida, the special tax district in Florida, the special tax privileges they get in Florida, but has kind of run its course. Netflix is after losing subscribers, they've now laid off like 300 employees, and they're claiming it's the most woke employees because they've canceled a bunch of upcoming shows because they were too woke. And so has this wokeism kind of run its course? Has the money issue, has it saying, well, we're losing money, so we can no longer be woke, get woke, go broke? Is it they're finally going broke, I guess is the question.
Well, I think Richard's being very still again. I'm a little worried when he's that still. Anyway, it's I am glad to see Netflix. It was lovely to see Netflix make the statement that you're going to work at this company. You're going to be asked to work on some endeavors that you don't agree with, and if you have a problem with that, maybe you should work somewhere else. Maybe Netflix isn't the place for you. So, I think on the one hand, I think. I feel, and I'm not seeing a lot of hard numbers supporting it, that people, don't want, media especially to manipulate the message. They don't want to be censored. They don't want to be guided. They don't want people to tell them that you can't watch this because it's not LGBTQ, whatever it is, appropriate. This is this is not in keeping with our thoughts on lots of stuff. I think people want a choice, and I think probably the best example of that is the most popular show being produced and watched by the most people in this country right now is a show called Yellowstone, and it's about it's a big drama, but it's about issues that are important to people, west of the Mississippi, like land use and government regulation and all the rest of that stuff. And it has some pretty hardcore libertarian / robber baron. Robber baron's a good thing, by the way. Look it up. In it, and doesn't get any awards, doesn't get any recognition, just takes money to the bank. And, that's because all the people controlling all of these awards and these award shows and everything else are woke as hell and far left. So I think American public the consumers are getting tired of having these people have a stranglehold on what they watch and listen to. And I think that's a good thing. If you want to call it the end of wokeism, then that's wonderful. Yeah.
Well, and what's really irritating is, for me personally, is you watch these people on the complain about the companies getting special privileges and whatnot, but when you try to take away Disney's privileges, they brought up and complain that, oh no, you can't take away Disney's special privilege tax privilege districts. You can't remove the special privileges we've given to them already. We want to complain about the special privileges, but we don't want to actually do anything about the special privileges. We just want to complain about the special privileges the government gives these companies. And that's just really irritating because, there's the same group of people who complain about, oh, big business, oh, corporations, oh, all this. Oh, no, you can't take Disney's special privileges away. But part of the other thing is Disney's might lose some their copyrights to some of their old characters, because how Disney's gotten some special compensation. What is it? Not compensation. What's the word I'm looking for, John?
Dispensation.
Consideration for their iconic or their old iconic characters that would normally have been into the public domain by now.
Yeah.
Right? If you and I had created a character, they would have been in the public domain by now. But because it's
Well, no,
Disney,
corporations get a longer lifespan on their characters. But it's Steamboat Willie is getting ready to expire, but they don't use Steamboat Willie. And every time they have a new iteration of a character, then it gets the same lifespan. But why should a corporation's interest in a likeness or in verbs? Because I'm a writer. Hell, by the time my books get published, I'll have to be 150 for it to expire. No, a little bit less than that, folks. So, it's weird. Special interest groups have always had their way in this country. And, as long as you have regulatory agencies that can influence in special interest favors, it's going to continue. The libertarian response to that is basically just say treat everybody the same or have no rules. But I understand having copyright and patent, but I think 50 years is enough. I don't think you need 99 years or 75 years. 50 years is enough.
Well, and especially with how fast information moves and things change today, it's a vastly different landscape. If you haven't gotten the money out of your project in 20, 30 years now, you're not going to really, it's time to move on, right? Unlike the old days where it took 10 years to kind of get your stuff out there. It took so long to get your art, your work out and about, that having a long period of time to be able to take advantage of it makes more sense. But nowadays your art and out there in days, hours, minutes, not years.
For some folks, not all of us, but for some folks, yeah.
Well, and so maybe there's maybe a digital art which is treated differently than something else. But I don't know. There's got to be some better ways to do that. But talking about better ways to do this, John, boomers are no longer the bosses. And this was just something that caught me. This is kind of a personal thing. It's got really nothing to politics. But there was listening to the millennials and Gen Zs are complaining that boomers are making them come back to work. But boomers are retired. The boomers are not the ones. It's people like me, the 50-year-olds, the 60-year-olds are making you come back to work. Can you even get your insults right? I just, it's not boomers making you go back to work. It's people in their 50s and 60s.
Well, I found that hilarious too, because they're talking about people don't trust us and they think we have to be in the office to do work and we need to do that, so we do more work, and they self-identify and say, well, I'm way more effective than I am at home. And one of the people in one of the things we watched as research for this said, hold on a second, I got to stop the interview. My husband's having a little issue with the child, so hold on a second while I go help him out here. So she's working from home, and one of the reasons she pitches is so she can spend more time with her children. And in her interview about how she quit her job because they wanted her to go into work, and she says she works much better at home and is much more efficient, she pauses the interview so she can go take care of her kid. So, I think that there's a huge amount of interaction with coworkers that provides learning and expertise and feedback and advice and people tearing your ideas apart and forcing you to support all the rest of it. There's so many good things that happen when people are together in an office environment. And I also agree that you can get work done from home. But, if it's a business and the business is looking at it and says that, no, people are more effective and efficient in doing what we do if you come into the office, then look for another line of work. But, don't say it's the baby boomers problem. It's a managerial issue. And if the managers and owners of the company decide you need to be at work to do your job more effectively, then you need to be at work. And if you don't want to do that, find another job. Pretty simple.
And some jobs are better suited. Like if you're a customer service, you're answering phones and you're just helping customer service. That's more suited to being at home where you can just sitting on your headphones and your computer and you don't really have interaction. But if you have a creative job, or if you have jobs where you're problem solving teams, you need to be able to walk into the, hey, Bob, and deal with it right away. There's a different feeling. There's a different attitude. And so it really, it has to depend on the culture of the business, the type of work you're doing, and all these various factors. You can't just say, well, I work from home is best or work from the office is best. Really, you have to find out what works best for that company and that culture, right? It's
I keep getting kicked off. There's a tropical storm moving through Belize, so I keep getting kicked off the air with the power outages. But I'm back now. I don't know if you've mentioned this yet, but this is something that the market will sort out eventually. People who are more efficient and can work better at home will find a company that allows them to do so. There's companies like Slack and Zoom and so forth that make it easy to collaborate from remote locations. I'm a great believer in working from home. I think it makes a heck of a lot of sense for most companies. But there are certain things like, laying bricks or things that require that you're on the job site. You just can't do it. And that's something the market will sort out. Just let it.
Yeah, well, this is essentially the market sorting out. We've got a couple minutes, so we're going to go. Biden flew in some a handful, a drop in the bucket essentially of baby formulas, but they never want to address that the real problem is here that the FDA doesn't trust mothers to read European and Canadian labels. That's why we have a shortage, right? The government closed down a plant and refused to allow in imports in from Canada and Europe. Not because it's dangerous, not because they know any better, but because we can't somehow manage to read the labels properly. Somehow the labels.
Yeah, it's nannyism at its worst. I grew up on cow's milk, for God's sake, as soon as I quit nursing. And somehow or another, I managed to survive. There's absolutely no reason at all for the shortage of formula other than the fact the government is just getting in the damn way. That's all it is, 100%. No other reason.
Well, and I think that might be the focus for the end of the show. And every single problem we can bring up, I think that we could say it wouldn't be a problem if the government just got out of the damn way. Being libertarians, I think we can. I'd be hard pressed to find a problem that's causing people real harm that the government didn't either create or exacerbate, or a problem that didn't get a whole lot worse without government attempt to help whatever the problem was. Normally, it's a government created problem that they turned into a nightmare and a disaster by their interference. So, the formula thing is a perfect example.
Yeah, because formula, you should be able to set up a formula factory in a small warehouse and produce for your local community relatively quickly, but you can't do it because of government regulations and red tape and all this kind of stuff.
Yeah, and a lot of it is protectionism. Abbott and a few other people who are part of the oligopoly don't want any damn competition, and so they're using government regulation to prevent competition. That's at the heart of it, and they are the big campaign contributors, and they get their way.
And we got to get our way. We are out of time. Thank you, gentlemen, for joining us. Richard, thank you for joining us from Belize. We appreciate it. John, thank you for getting out of your sick bed for a day for us. We go back to bed, and we are out of here. Thank you for joining us. And please remember,